President Cyril Ramaphosa's recent remarks calling for a thorough investigation into unprosecuted apartheid-era crimes have sparked intense national conversation, reopening deep and painful wounds that many South Africans have long struggled to heal. As the country commemorated Freedom Day, a time meant to celebrate the progress made since the end of apartheid, Ramaphosa stood before the nation and pointed to an uncomfortable truth, that justice remains elusive for countless victims and families who bravely came forward during the Truth and Reconciliation Commission process. His words were more than just ceremonial, they were a clear and bold statement that unresolved injustices of the past continue to cast a long shadow over the present. The promise of a just and equitable society cannot be fully realized, he argued, if accountability is left incomplete. Ramaphosa reminded South Africans that the TRC handed over a list of cases specifically marked for possible prosecution, especially for those individuals who were denied amnesty because they had failed to make full disclosures or because their crimes did not qualify for amnesty. And yet, more than 2 decades later, virtually none of those cases have progressed meaningfully through the judicial system. These were cases that were expected to deliver closure, but instead they have remained dormant, creating frustration, anger, and disillusionment among those who trusted that their testimonies would not be in vain. To understand why Ramaphosa's call is such a significant moment, we need to look back at the historical context that led to this point. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, chaired by Archbishop Desmond Tutu and established in 1995, was tasked with uncovering the truth about human rights abuses committed during the apartheid era. It was an unprecedented process that sought not just to punish but to reconcile, allowing perpetrators of politically motivated crimes to come forward and confess their actions fully, in exchange for amnesty. The idea was to strike a balance between truth-telling and justice, prioritizing national healing over endless retribution. However, this came with an important caveat. Those who did not qualify for amnesty, either because they withheld information or because their crimes were deemed too severe and not politically motivated, were supposed to be prosecuted under the normal judicial system. This was a compromise meant to assure victims that even though many perpetrators would walk free, the worst offenders who refused to cooperate would face legal consequences. But over time, the momentum to follow through on these prosecutions slowed, and eventually, it ground to a near halt. Families of victims, civil society groups, and even former TRC commissioners have for years raised alarm bells, claiming that successive South African governments deliberately avoided pursuing these cases. Allegations surfaced that powerful political figures who had vested interests in shielding certain individuals pressured prosecutors and law enforcement agencies to back off. The fear, many believed, was that unearthing certain apartheid-era crimes could implicate individuals who later became influential in the post-apartheid dispensation, or that it could destabilize the fragile national unity painstakingly built after 1994. These suspicions were compounded by statements from legal experts and former TRC officials who argued that there had been clear political interference obstructing justice. As the years passed and memories of the TRC faded from the public consciousness, the urgency to revisit these cases diminished even further, leaving many victims and families feeling abandoned by the very democracy they had hoped would protect them. Now, Ramaphosa's call injects new energy into an issue that many thought had been quietly buried. By tasking Justice Minister Ronald Lamola with providing a report on the status of these long-dormant cases and recommending a path forward, the president has signaled that his administration may be ready to confront what previous governments were not willing to. Legal analysts are cautious but optimistic, noting that while reopening investigations will be challenging, especially given the passage of time, the fading memories of witnesses, and the aging or death of key perpetrators, it is not impossible. They argue that even symbolic prosecutions or public inquiries could go a long way toward restoring faith in the justice system and affirming the principle that no one is above the law, no matter how long ago the crime was committed. For families who lost loved ones to political assassinations, torture, and other brutal acts during apartheid, even a small measure of accountability could provide much-needed closure. However, challenges abound. Gathering evidence after so many years, securing credible witness testimonies, and building airtight cases in court will not be easy. Some critics also warn that reopening these cases could reignite racial tensions or reopen divisions that the TRC tried to mend. Others question whether the South African legal system, already burdened by current crime and corruption cases, has the resources to take on such a monumental task. Yet supporters of Ramaphosa's move argue that justice delayed should not mean justice denied. They believe that South Africa's commitment to constitutionalism and human rights demands that the country at least tries to see these cases through, no matter how difficult it might be. Ramaphosa's stance also carries political implications. It distances him from predecessors who were perceived as passive or even complicit in shelving apartheid-era prosecutions. By taking a proactive role, he could position himself as a leader committed to moral clarity and accountability, something that could resonate with younger generations who feel disconnected from the compromises made during the early days of democracy. Moreover, it places pressure on opposition parties, civil society organizations, and the judiciary to articulate where they stand on the matter of unfinished transitional justice. If Ramaphosa's administration follows through on this commitment, it could set a precedent for how nations around the world deal with legacies of state-sanctioned violence and impunity. Looking forward, South Africa stands at a crossroads. On one hand, pursuing these prosecutions could revive painful memories and test the capacity of the judicial system. On the other hand, confronting these unresolved crimes could finally help the nation close a dark chapter with honesty and integrity, fulfilling the TRC's original vision of truth, justice, and reconciliation. As Ramaphosa stated, building a truly just society requires confronting uncomfortable truths, not avoiding them. Whether this investigation leads to formal prosecutions, public inquiries, or other forms of accountability, it is clear that ignoring these cases is no longer tenable. For you guys watching this video, we would love to hear your thoughts on this very important topic. Do you believe reopening apartheid-era cases will help South Africa achieve true justice, or do you think it could cause more harm than good after all these years? Please share your opinions in the comments section below and let us know where you stand. Don't forget to subscribe to the Political Spectrum for more in-depth analysis of South African politics, and if you found this video insightful, please like and share it so more people can join this important conversation. Thank you for watching.